Hi, I'm Brett Weldele. Through time lapse, I'm going to show you how I created a steampunk distress ink painting for Tim Holtz. Let's check it out. The steampunk painting is a good example of my techniques using layering. It's also a good example of a very limited palette giving you a lot of bang for buck. Here I'm basically blocking in the local color for a bunch of the major objects within the piece. I'm only using frayed burlap, rusty hinge, tattered rose, and weathered wood. And this version of my technique requires quite a bit of time in front of the light box. And while this gives lots of flexibility on how you want to layer both line work and paint, it's also not the easiest on your eyes. I don't really do things quite this way anymore because I got tired of sitting in front of the light box. But nonetheless, this is one of the easiest ways to create a lot of layers and a lot of texture. As you'll notice, I'm both laying in line work and then breaking it up over top of it with some another layer of painting. This gives a really organic look to the line work, so it's not so much something that's on top of the piece, but more an integral part of the piece. I think it's one of the fun things about distress ink is that you can really play with the relationships of paint and drawing in a very organic way. As you notice, I also kind of separate up the work from painting in each of the figures somewhat separately, much because I have a short attention span. So it's not a big deal, but you can paint the entire thing all at once or in separate pieces. It doesn't really matter. Still blocking in some of that weathered wood for the background. It's going to be the tonal center of this piece. All of the lighting is going to be based off of that. Just finishing up the line work here before we start final painting. Now that the light boxing is done, it's time to shade it. Since the background is weathered wood, I'm creating the entire environment in weathered wood. So right here, I'm going around the figure and I'm shading everything that I want lit a certain way with weathered wood. And that is going to create all the shadows on the face and the figures. And so now it's starting to become something of a cohesive whole. Everything was sort of separate before and flat, and now things are starting to merge together a little bit. Using some black soot on her hair, a little bit of black soot into his jacket and hat. One of the things with using a specific color is you want to kind of move it around the piece so it doesn't look too out of place, and so it sort of balances with others. I'm going to do a black lift technique right here where I laid down some black soot and now I'm going to pick it up with a paper towel. Because the layers below it are dry, you can create sort of a reverse effect because of that. Just adding a little bit of extra color in just to ground those figures into the piece using just some really light frayed burlap. This background I'm drenching with rusty hinge and gold perfect pearl to create sort of a grungy look for the clock. Added a little bit of barn door for a little bit hotter red, and then the other sections have a lot of the weathered wood still lurking through. Added a little bit of peeled paint. This is where the layering technique really becomes apparent You have color upon color peeking through. Now I'm going through and kind of blocking of the major shadows within the background. This is really, getting sort of end run sort of techniques. Now, what the fun thing is that you can use multiple colors within these textures, and whenever you run finished photo over these different sections, it's going to create a different look for it. So it's going to have, despite that one color, it's going to be just lots of variance in that. And that's the piece, all finished. Check you next time.